Well, gasoline and food prices, you no doubt know, are high, so are interest rates.
Yeah, don't forget about health care and the ridiculous cost of college. Are these the worst of times? No one better to address this than our own Seth Kaplan, our analyst Seth. Hey, Seth.
Hey, when you say the worst of times, Dennis and Alicia, I'm told folks more cultured than I am think of Charles Dickens. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. Personally, I think of the Styx song, right? The headlines read, these are the worst of times, right? So are they?
I'm actually in the process of buying a house right now, so mortgage interest rates definitely feel daunting.
An average last week of 7.76%.
Just a couple of years ago, you could get a mortgage for less than 3%.
2.65% to be exact. But Bill Rothman also remembers what it was like to sell homes around here in the late 1970s and early 1980s.
It was a time to be creative, very creative, if you wanted to sell real estate. And we had things like the owner would finance the sale.
He'll offer all kinds of discounts. He'll reduce the interest rate to a comfortable 12%.
Wait, what was that?
To a comfortable 12%.
12% was comfortable compared to the average rate banks were offering at one point in 1981.
18.63%.
So as for the big question, in this part of life at least,
there were worse times.
As for inflation, Jay Shabbat, author of the book American Places, a profile of local economies across the U.S., says human nature is sometimes we focus on the things that go up in price and take for granted those that don't. Take, for example, the cost of TVs. Here's a commercial back in 2000.
The 60-inch projection TV on sale, only $998.88.
Standard definition, of course. Based on overall inflation, you'd expect that TV to now cost $1,800. Instead, we found this 58-inch TV at Walmart for less than $300. A flat, smart TV, 4K, which no one could have dreamed of in 2000.
Those kind of products are areas where they're really, if anything, there's been deflation, not inflation.
But inflation isn't our imagination, especially in three key areas.
I like to refer to the 3 H's, and that's housing and higher education and healthcare.
The difference between those areas and things like TVs, computers, and phones, electronics are built in places like China, where workers earn far less than American workers.
It's just not true with housing, healthcare, and higher education. You can't, get someone in Shanghai to do your surgery or to build your house. It's just something that has to be local.
Sure enough, this chart from Visual Capitalist shows Shabbat's 3 H's surging in price since 2000, with prices of consumer goods dropping just as quickly. Two other big items in the family budget, food and energy, are more of a mixed bag. Back in 1979, our newscasts were full of stories about rising food prices. Ground beef
It was $1.59 back about a month ago, and now it's $1.89.
That might sound like a bargain today, but minimum wage was $2.90 an hour back then. $1.89 a pound back then is the equivalent of $8.42 a pound today. In reality, beef averages about $5 a pound today. Gasoline price.
I think they're outrageous as far as I'm concerned.
That of $1.41 per gallon for unleaded.
Sounds cheap, but that's $4.87 in today's dollars, and that's if you could even get gas. Back then, there were shortages.
In a spot check of service stations in the Harrisburg area today, TV 27 News found that half of the stations closed early.
So a road trip to a place where you didn't know if there'd be gas to get you back home? Forget it.
We stopped in Camp Hill and filled up. Probably doing like everybody else is. We're making a one tank full trip. Fill up in one tank and get back, and that's it.
And then there's this perspective from none other than Nook Odin, struggling to get a mortgage.
I'm originally from Thailand, and personally, we've had like 2 military coups that I've lived through, so I guess some things are bad, but then when we look at a greater context, there's always like other people that have it worse off.
Indeed there are. And as for that Styx song, each verse beginning, I know you feel these are the worst of times. The headlines read these are the worst of times. This song is actually called The Best of Times. Yeah, it's a sappy love song, but it's also largely about noticing the good, even, Dennis, when some things aren't easy.
You mean the good like your singing voice?
Oh, no, not that. Lots of other good in the world, though.
Great story, though.